Holy cow, it's been 4 weeks since the last Fire Emblem video? Jeez, it's been so long that someone else decided to do the Awakening video for me. But in case you've been wondering where this video has been for so long, it's because I've been working on other things like this. So sit back and grab some popcorn because we're going to be here for a while. So this is what happens in Fire Emblem Awakening. This game takes place like 4,000 years after FE4 and like 2,000 years after FE1, and surprisingly, technology has regressed for some reason. Wow, time going forward but quality regressing over time, this truly is a representation of the current Fire Emblem community. This game starts off with a really cryptic premonition of Mary Robin killing Crom, our favorite Western protagonist, not counting Marth, Eliwood, Lyn, Hector, Erica, Ephraim, Path of Radiance Ike, Radiant Dawn Ike, and Micaiah, during a battle against Valadar. Our favorite Western main antagonist, not counting Garnef, Nurgle, Leon, Ashnord, or Sephirin. After this premonition that apparently isn't real or dreamed, the memory-lost Robin wakes up to Crom and Lisa. We're doing the amnesia thing again, Fire Emblem? God, the only thing that's more abused than amnesia in a Fire Emblem game is noir. Crom offers Robin to tag along with them to Yellowstone when suddenly they see that Southtown is being attacked by bandits, which is pretty much the closest thing you're gonna see to conventional Fire Emblem in this game. After their time in Southtown, they camp out overnight only to be surprised by an earthquake, fireballs, and purple smoke-breathing creatures from another dimension. In this forest, a girly man emerging from the portal named Marth helps Crom fend off these mysterious creatures and then warns them that this is just the beginning. Team Crom, aka the Shepherds, finally make it to Yellowstone, and Robin meets Lady Emerin, Exalt and ruler of Ylisse. There, they begin to discuss the recent appearance of those cheap Revenant-looking knockoffs, which they decide to call Risen, which is a bit of a misnomer since they fell from the sky. Crom heads to Ragnarok in hopes that the Feroxy can help them against this new evil. To their surprise, these quote-unquote barbarians mistake the one and only Elysian prince, with the one and only Falchion, with the one and only Brand of the Exalt, for a Pelagian bandit. And in another epic CGI cutscene, Sumiya, our favorite Western Pegasus Knight, not counting Florina, Fiora, Farina, yeah, you get the point, rescues Crom in the nick of time. Yeah, rescuing was cool. They should bring that back. Crom ends up fighting the Feroxy in order to prove that he is indeed the one and only Prince of Ylisse and not a Pelagian bandit. Like, listen, I know Pelagians dress like metrosexuals, but I think Crom's metrosexuality is different. I mean, how could he even look Pelagian? He doesn't even have signature Pelagian hand gestures and or long as fuck fingernails. The gang meets Flavia, the Eastern Khan of Ragnarok, who insists that if Crom wants her help, he needs to fight on her behalf in the Khan Games. Crom fights against the Western Khan's representative, Marth, who for Crom's sake lets him win. After Crom wins the tournament and gains troop support from Ragnarok, the gang heads back to Ylisse only to head to the Pelagian border to try to parley with the Mad King Gangrel, who has more beef with Ylisse than the Fire Emblem community will have with me after this video. After Crom accidentally declares war on Pelagia, they head back to Yellowstone to strategize, but discover that Valadar had been anticipating an assassination to steal the Fire Emblem for himself. Marth appears saying he foretold Valadar's assassination attempt on Emerin, and they are able to fend off the Pelagians. They successfully alter Emerin's fate and Valadar is killed. Just kidding, you can't actually die from being killed in this game. Crom's plan to escort Emerin to safety and consequently out of Yellowstone backfires because Robin didn't think of it. Emerin feels guilty about abandoning her people, so she sends Crom to Ferox in her stead. So back at Ragnarok, Basilio tells Crom that Ylisse has fallen, Emerin has been captured, and is going to be publicly executed, quote-unquote, within the moon. Yeah, I don't really know what that means either, but considering that Lisa only asked Crom if Emerin was going to be alright by herself once they finally reach Ragnarok like 3 days later, I'm just going to assume that time doesn't actually exist in this universe. After reaching Gangrel and Emerin, they execute their rescue plan, which ends up going about as well as Radiant Dawn's sales figures. After they think they've won, Aversa summons Risen and Gangrel gives them an ultimatum, to either give them the Fire Emblem in exchange for Emerin's life or he'd kill her. It's at this moment where the game introduces you to the your plot related decisions don't actually fucking matter mechanic. Ugh, I'd rather have biorhythms make a comeback than this shit. Emerin kills herself as an act to end the war and Crom manages to escape to regroup. And one chapter later he travels all the way back to repatriate Ylisse, and defeat the Mad King Gangrel, once and for all. Here they discover that many Pelagians have actually given up the war effort because of Emerin's sacrifice. Well, Crom finally faces Gangrel and defeats him. But little did they know it was all part of the plan. The game then does a 2-year time skip. Crom is now a father to a baby named Lucina, and for the sake of canon, but more importantly for me to rip into Sumiya, Sumiya is the mother. The only thing Sumiya has ever done to make Crom fall in love with her is bake fucking pies. She's so bland the game even admits to it. So I guess Sumiya fills that basic as fuck white girl trope? You know those chubby redneck country girls with the plaid ponytails, glasses, with the unhealthy obsession with horses and taking selfies holding black flies in their bathroom mirror with the caption not your average girl? You know, the kind of girls who get high school graduation photo shoots in an open field. And probably definitely ride their horses to prom too? That's Sumiya. Remy visits Crom on behalf of Ragnarok to tell him that Flavia needs help against a new threat from Valm, Walhart the Conqueror. They rush to Port Ferox to fend off the invading Valmese and consequently declare war on Valm. Understanding that fighting the Valmese on land would be like the Sixers playing against the Dream Team, they decide to accept help from the new Pelagian king. Flavia also compliments Robin for his growth over the past 2 years, which is a bit ironic considering the fact that Robin has less development than a pizza pocket. Pelagia immediately offers to help Crom and asks him to meet. In fact, the response is so quick that Crom didn't even need to leave Port Ferox. Turns out that the new king of Plagia is none other than Valadar. They also meet their Hierophant, which, because I know there's a lot of 13-year-olds watching this, is pretty much a fancy word for Pope. On the way back to Ferox, they're ambushed by more Risen. Yeah, remember them? Sent by Valadar, who apparently can't decide if he wants to help Crom or not. Crom almost gets killed by a Risen, but Girl Marth jumps in to stop it. Here we discover that Marth is actually Lucina from the future. Her and a bunch of other children from the future traveled back in time to stop Grima from resurrecting because in their world, Valadar was able to resurrect him and ruin their future, so they went back in time to prevent the same thing from happening. So, time kind of exists, I guess. After all? After sailing to Vom, they rescue Ciri, a rebel leader fighting Walhart. Afterwards, they head to the military to try to free Tiki from Walhart's grasp, and try to unite the other resistance forces around her voice. Well anyway, Tiki's in this game and yep, puberty hit her real good. Tiki in this game acts as an oracle to Naga, the ancient divine dragon, who in this game is a female, and I can only think of 2 reasons why she got that gender swap. Crom goes to Fort Steger and seizes it, but Exilus, Haveti's castrated, gender-confused descendant, forces the resistance to betray them, and gets the fortress surrounded, with Ciri's older brothers and Walhart's armies closing in. Despite Lucina's insistence that Basilio gets killed by Walhart in her future, he offers to take on Walhart on his own to buy Crom time to escape the fortress to avoid being Eiffel Towered, and they end up having a large enough time window from the Khans to isolate Yenfei's army. Basilio gets his Feroxy ass handed to him by Walhart, and the chapter ends with him giving Flavia the Gulas gemstone, which he has now. For some reason. Does anyone else find this huge disconnect that they put this whole emphasis on needing to distract Walhart to buy them enough time to run, but then the game allowing you to travel across the continent however many times you want, find future kids, and fight Risen before the story decides to want to progress again? Like, does anyone find that intelligence systems should have put like some regulations on this world map or something? Well, whatever. Robin decides to fight Yenfei on a fucking erupting volcano in hopes that Yenfei's approach will be stifled so they can actually beat him. Hopefully before they don't burn or suffocate or something because they're on a fucking erupting volcano, like what? Whatever, I shouldn't really be talking considering I'm doing this in my own game. Whatever, let's be real here. This chapter, along with this whole arc for that matter, pretty much just exists to shoehorn FE2 references at veterans, presumably because they suspected that old fans of the franchise would probably have microwaved their 3DS without them, because FE2 is so important. After Ciri defeats Yenfei, Exilus teleports out of nowhere and tells Ciri that Yenfei was blackmailed into fighting for Walhart in order to protect his kingdom, but more importantly to protect his sister, which makes no sense actually? Why would you actively try to kill the person you're trying to protect in the first place? Ugh, god, this actually hurts. This writing actually hurts my head. Trying to make sense of this writing in direction of this arc is harder than trying to convince Amelia fanboys that she actually sucks, and no, just because she's a pink general doesn't make her better than Gilliam. After Yenfei dies, all resistance forces and pretty much everyone else rallies around Crom. They defeat Exilus and Cervantes. And, remember when villains were like cool, or like smart, or like were two-dimensional at the very least? That was nice. Should go back to those days. Crom defeats Walhart and Ciri recovers the Vert gemstone as well, which only leaves the last gemstone to collect before the Fire Emblem is complete. They return to Elise and receive word that Valadar wants to deliver the final gemstone, Sable, to Crom personally. So even though Valadar is clearly evil and Crom recognizes that, and even though he'd expect that Valadar wants to plot something with the Fire Emblem, considering the fact that he tried to kill Emerin for the first time because of the Fire Emblem, and considering that he's from Plagia, which is where Garangirl is from, and even though that he'd suspect that Valadar wants to plot something, and even though Frederick says not to bring the Fire Emblem, Crom proceeds anyway. Thankfully, this is too stupid to be true. Under Valadar's mind control, Robin gives her old man the incomplete Fire Emblem. At the Dragon's Table, a place where the Grimleal go to kill themselves, they successfully trick him into thinking that he could summon Grima. Basilio arrives with, presumably, the real Gula Stone. Yeah, he survived the fight against Walhart, I guess, because God forbid anyone actually dies in this game. The gang succeeds in altering their destiny, but Grima appears out of nowhere and tells them that their efforts are futile, and resurrects himself. So that sucks, I guess. After Grima's resurrection without the help of the Fire Emblem, he enacts his terror by first floating around the sky and not actually doing anything or stopping anyone. The heroes go to the Naga shrine to do the awakening rite because it's important, and wow, Naga settled down with the cleavage, jeez. Crom performs the awakening rite to exalt the Falchion, and then they go fight Grima for real this time, who is still floating around not really trying that hard to stop the 2 people that can actually ruin his plans. Also, if you're wondering how Crom got the Fire Emblem back from Valadar, it's because Grima let Robin take it. Kinda like how Grima let them go to Naga's shrine without really putting any real effort to stop them. Or like how Grima let them use Naga's power to get on his back. Or how Grima let Crom and the rest of Robin's friends live even though he can spike death them to 1 HP. Or like how Grima let the heroes fight on his back in the first place. Okay, I'm being a little bit too one-sided. Grima did do some stuff. I mean, he was the mastermind behind getting all the gemstones in one place for Valadar, right? I mean, yeah, he doesn't really need it all in the first place, and would have been pretty much unstoppable if he just destroyed the gemstone he had, which would ultimately prevent Rom from performing the awakening rite. Wait, Grima doesn't really actually need the Fire Emblem? Well, you know what? Grima's like the worst villain of all time. Anyways, where were we? Oh right, so yeah, Naga teleports them to Grima's back for the final battle. Cool on paper, but in reality is just one Grima barrel roll away from being the most retarded idea ever. Naga tells Robin that since he and Grima share the same heart, if he's the one to kill Grima, then Grima will actually die for reals this time. Robin kills Grima and consequently vanishes himself. But thanks to the power of friendship, but more importantly, because 12-year-olds can't handle heroes actually sacrificing themselves for the betterment of the world, the bonds Robin forged ultimately revives him. So Grima dies and Robin lives. And the Risen are gone. And the Grim Leal are gone too, I guess, but they were never really here. And the kids saved their future universe, future thing. What? And Emerin lives. And Gangrel lives. And Walhart lives. And Aversa lives. But you know who doesn't live? Fucking Mustafa. And that's Fire Emblem Awakening for you. The end. If you made it to the end of the video and you enjoyed it, please leave a like and comment, and please subscribe. Thank you.